Well, hey there, hi. How you doing? Sorry for the view here, the extreme close-up. Hope this finds you well. My name's Paul, this is Plan Z, and I'm not usually talking to you in this view. I just wanted to show you a little bit something different at the front of this video before we dive into the settings view. But before we get cracking with that, over the last kind of 10 days or so, or since I put out the last video, there's about 30 of you have subscribed. So I just wanted to say hi and thank you so much for your support. Hopefully how I approach this is going to be right and it will be of interest to you. And if you have any suggestions of how I could improve it, just get in touch, let me know. I'm not a twat. Well, I'm a twat, but I'm not a dickhead. I'm a dickhead, but I'm open to ideas and change. Let's put it that way. So yeah, hi, hope you're well, and let's get cracking. So what I've done, since the last settings, I've taken that patch I built, and then I built a whole new patch, using that one as a template. So I've swapped a couple of things around and I've put a twin combo in. So what we're going to be doing in part 2 is diving into the amps. Now, this part 2 is going to be the introduction to part 2. The rest of part 2 will be a series of short videos labeled part 2A, B, C, D, through all of the amps. Now, I've set up 30 patches on here, all in a wet dry. We've got 23 amps to cover across part 2. And in this first part, I just want to dive into what happens when you change the cabs and when you change the microphones, and so that we have the principles of how I'm going to be working with those elements out of the way, so when we go into A, B, C, D, E, etc., I'll be able to just focus on the amp itself and then tweak with the other parts. So I just want to get us off the ground. In here, I've taken a tip from Jared Gunstons, who I'll link in below, who did a video last year, I think it was, where he uses a looper to help him get his sound right. So I've set up a looper in here, a quick one just for this patch for us as a working template. I'll show you how I do that and a quick way of doing it. And then what I did was I've taken this patch. So what we've got is let me just grab a pick. Right, excuse me if I don't look at you all the time. I'm going to play. Just trust me, I'm not playing with myself down here as a guitar. Right, twin combo, which is a Fender reverb. Yeah, twin reverb. Okay, just turn the tone up on the guitar. I had the tone off, sorry. Now, there's no compressor on before the amp on my clean. And if I put a compressor on before the amp, you'll see that's more present. Now, this first control switch here is a sign that a whole bunch of stuff happens. It changes the first channel into a dirty amp and it changes the parameters. Now, I covered how I set this up in the previous video, so if you're just joining, go look at the previous video. I'll link it below. It will show you how I did that. And on here I've got the dirty twin combo. This is with original Sims on it, and I've got the Condenser 87 microphone. But we're going to dive into a view in a minute. I just want to show you what's coming up. So now I've got a stereo patch set up, and that's engaged when I hit this control here. Now in that stereo patch is my wet dry. We're going to dive into that in a second. And there I'm going to add the reverb, and I'm going to go back to the clean. By the way, I just jammed these. They're not written or rehearsed or anything. I'm just chesting the tone out. Stick the dirty channel on. Go to the back pickup. Now I have put a T-scream on here. So this is on my clean channel. Let me go clean. So here's the T-scream. Back on the neck pickup. And And I've put a fuzz on here. Let's take the reverb off. Go to the dirty channel. Go to the back pickup. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll, go to my neck pickup, and I'm going to roll the tone off. I'm going to roll all the gain off, so I'm going to go down to about 2 on the gain knob of the guitar. Add the reverb. A bit of delay. Bring in that gain. Okay, so that's nice and heavy. I'm going to tweak with these levels. All I did is bring an amp in up to a level, but now I've shown you that patch. What I then did is I took all of those elements and I saved it again as another patch. So I'm moving to another patch here. And what we've got going on, so I just finished explaining this. It's all the same as what we just went in, but I've changed the amps. So here is my AB. It's a clean and a dirty. And here we've got the X crunch on the clean, which is the A, and the B is an x-higain. So we get... Bring that tone back in. Let's bring in the stereo channel. Put the reverb on. I changed the reverb about. Now I'm going to go to the dirty. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go D minor, I think. Hang on. Take that reverb off. I'm just going to go to the single amp now. So when this is red, it's just the dirty amp on the A channel. All I've done is change where the mid setting was on the amp to bring out the mid range, but everything else is the same as the previous patch. Going to bring in the stereo channel. Bring a reverb on. Bring in my delay. On the neck pickup. Okay, so I've also got set here a solo switch. It's actually a compressor to put onto my clean post amp. I've got a compressor preamp coming from my HX effects. We'll talk through that in a little second. I've also on this channel got the same, let's just take off the reverb and delay. I've also put the same T-screen. I think I changed some of the levels ever so slightly. Just go to the single amp, put it on. I need to speak with the noise gate that's on there. Good stereo. You're just listening to tones, don't judge me on my playing. I'm not a heavy metal guy. Although I love listening to it. And as a kid I used to play it, but I'm out of practice. I'm old now. Put the fuzz on. Okay, so that's that racket over and done with. We're going to go back into the Tweed. We're going to dive into the settings now, and we're going to play around with these amps. And let's just see what happens with just these two amps. I'm going to do a separate video on each amp in the ABCs that I mentioned earlier, but in this one, I just want to see what effect changing the microphones has and changing the cab sims has on these amplifiers. So hang in there, we're diving in now. Right guys, diving straight in. What you should know is when we come out of this, I'm going to go back into another view where I finish off showing you a few things on here. But what you should know is there's nothing on the front end. I have got a compressor, as I mentioned, that I set up pretty much the same way as I would a Boss compressor. But it would just come on at the front down here when I engage it. But I'm going to leave it off for a minute, and I'm going to turn off my EQ. Now my EQ, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go into settings because I'm going to do separate settings videos later down the line. But I'm going to just skip through the pages, so if you want to, you can pause and have a look. So this is a parametric EQ on this, and I've just taken some of the lows out. I've given it a little boost in its overall level because I've cut out 500 Hertz a bit. And I've cut out about 6.5 Hertz there, K Hertz. And I've done my high-low cut here post the amp. I've also got a noise gate on. I'm going to leave that on for a second. So here you'll see we've got the twin combo. And when I press my button, you'll notice down here in the left corner it changes. Oh no, you won't see it changes. But if I go to this page, you'll see here, sorry. It will switch between high and low. I covered how I set that up in the previous video. Okay, there's my high gain. There's my low gain. And here I've put the looper. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you do that. So you press your menu button on your unit. We go to control assign, this one. And what I've done is I've just done a quick looper. You could drop it in here, but I've used a lot of the sides in there, and I want to keep them clean for a second because I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to dump it in there. So I go into here, and I can scroll down here. If I go to this last turn, this last little knob on the left, I can scroll that down. And what I've done is I've gone to where my number 5 control switch is for patch 5. And I've just changed that to looper. And how I've done that is I've pressed in, once I've got it to there, on the knob that's underneath that control, and you can scroll through here. You can see you've got loads of different things, and if you press in and scroll, you can go all the way to the beginning very quickly and turn it off. But I want the looper, so I'm going to go all the way to the end and then scroll back, and you'll see here, you'll see looper options appear, and there you've got stop and clear. So you can assign different things, but I just want this to just be a one knob looper, so I'm going to press the parameter button, and there it is assigned. I've already done the LEDs on that, so what I would do here is I press exit once there, and here it brings me to this page, and there I can see LED color. So when I press into the button that's underneath that, the buttons correspond to the control switches here, and there I've just changed the color. You can see I was in there, it's engaged. I can change the color of it to whatever I want there. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to put that back on green, and then I'm going to press it, and then that's free to move to the next block that I want to assign a color of. Okay, so I'm going to come out of there because all of that was saved anyway. You should, if you're doing this along with me, press save at this point, or write. Okay, so what we're going to do is, now we've got our looper, I'm just going to take a little second. I'm going to set off some shakers, and I'm just going to set up a quick loop so we can do a little, see what happens. So I'm just going to count it, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I've got myself a loop. I'm going to get rid of my shakers. I can put down my guitar if I want, but I'm not going to. Right, remembering there's no EQ or anything on this. So I'm now just going to go to the end here. And you'll see we've got the original speaker, and we've got the microphone. So let's have a little look at what happens when we change microphone. At the moment, we've got the condenser 87 on, but I'm going to go. Now what I've noticed is this method helps you skip through things, but when you actually play it in, it reacts slightly differently. So don't always take this as gospel, it gives you a feel. Now this is nice and bright, there's lots of high-end energy there. Or low mids. Not so bright, so that's got more low mids in it. Again, I think that's slightly less bright. I'm back on the 87 now. And there I feel like I've got a nice mix of low mids, high mids. I don't know if you can hear those differences. Just going to go back to the dynamic. It's brighter, right? Okay, let's put our dirty amp on. Right, let's go back to the... switching out that mic. Seems to be less low energy in that and brighter in the high end. So the Dynamic 57, it would be my choice there, or too much low end energy there for me. I'd have to EQ too much of that out. Not enough top end. But the 87, yeah, that's nice. So what we're going to do is we're now going to look at the distance of that microphone. I've pulled it all the way to the outside of the cone. So this one's doing the position on the cone, and this one does your distance. So on the outside of the cone there, let's take the distance back. Hear how it's affecting the tone. Let's bring this back in. This is right in the center of the cone. Let's make this extreme now. Let's go really close. Now what we're going to do, I'm actually going to leave that on medium. I'm going to leave that 2 centimeters away. And I'm going to change the cab sim now. Now, all of these differences on the microphones were very subtle, but now we'll start to hear some more extreme differences. This is an 8-inch cone. I'm just going to go through them. We're going to end up on, I think, 2 12s, which what would be in a Fender twin combo. This is 110. Slightly richer sound there. Here's 112. But this is how this amp would have been built, is with 2 12s, so this is simulating that. And I like a condenser mic on these old amps. I think it just sounds more natural. Let's go to bigger sound of the 412s. Hopefully you heard that fill out. I'm going to go back to the 2s. And beyond here, we've got our 15s. Really bass, I would say here. You hear how it's changing, how everything sounds. So this is a really important part of your process. And I'm going to be doing this on every amp. And I'll have done it a little bit before. I'm just going to go back to the original sim here. Actually, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that on 2 12s. So I can't quite see the screen. I'm going to leave that on 2 12s. And I'm just going to turn that off for a little second. It's doing my head in. Right, so now we've done that. Let's play it in live. Now here I've got a compressor that on my patch number 2 control switch. I've reassigned it to become a compressor, and I only really use it when the amp's clean, unless I need an extra something. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into that compressor. I do another video where there's different side compression tricks you can do. I'll link that in below. But here I've just used the orange compressor, and I'll just see you can just see my settings there. Taking the sustain back a bit. The attack's not too aggressive. The level's been bumped. Not really done anything to the tone. I'm using a light compressor on it. I'm using it post. So if I disengage that now, bring in the stereo channel and go to my dirty. Now add the compressor. Okay, so on this patch, one thing of interest that I'd like to look at before we dive into the other amp is on the wet channel. I always use a different amp. In this case, I've chosen the natural amp, and it switches to a high gain in the natural amp when this one switches to a high gain. And I just wanted to show you that in this patch, I put the reverb before. So I'm going to go to the clean channel now of the amp, and we're just going to engage the reverb. And I put the reverb before. It's a spring reverb. And by putting it before the amp, and in the next patch, we've put it after the amp. It just does a little extra distortion into the reverb. Now, what I can do here is increase the density. Now, because I put the reverb before the amp, what I need to consider is where the noise gate goes for when I go to my heavy channel. So what I've done is I've put the noise gate before the reverb, because listen to what happens when you put the noise gate afterwards. Where's my reverb gone? Well, the noise gate, or the the noise suppressor, should I say, is cutting off your reverb. So put it before your reverb when you're using this technique. It can mess you up. And then at the end of the chain, we've got a delay. And on these channels, I'm always going to leave this on original speaker. I'll only change it if I'm having a problem with how this channel is split. So if I take off those, I'm just going to come back to this divide here. And what this is doing is it's taking my signal and splitting it into 2 paths. And here is where I'm getting my left-right split. Okay? So at the end of that, I'm set to left-right, and I've only got the spread on 10. And that's giving me the illusion of having two amps either side of my center amp, which is in the first channel. Okay? So that's how we're doing that. So now let's come out of here. Actually, before I do that, let me just save the patch. Then we're going to dive into this amp. Now I'm just going to very quickly, I've shown you how to do the looper. I'm not going to set it up on this one. It's the same. All I've done is change the amps, except for on the wet channel, I've got an X crunch, and I go from a low gain to a high gain on that X crunch when I engage the B channel of here. And it's all the same, except for I've put the reverb at the end of the signal chain here, which means I have my noise gate there. Now I noticed before my noise gate, what I want to do, I keep saying noise gate, that's not the terminology that Bosch use, so don't kill me, I'm not sponsored by them, this isn't for them, this is for us. I'm going to increase the level on that for when that goes high gain, so I just want to do that quickly while I'm remembering. I'm just going to put that I've just increased the release and threshold. Cleaner. Okay, so now I'm going to disengage this channel and just focus on this channel here. I'm going to come back, and what I'm going to do is turn off this EQ and now engage. Knowing what's going to happen to the speaker here, I'm just going to put that on the dynamic 57. I prefer this. There's too much fizz in the other one. I'm on the neck pickup, by the way. Let's go to the clean. Let me just put a compressor on. Turn that compressor off. Go to the high gain again. Let's just continue flicking through these. So we've got the fizzy 57. We got the chunky 421. Going to back pickup. We've got the soft. Oh, that. Yeah, that's gone kind of dead there. Let's see what happens if we bring that closer. That's very thick. Let's go to the 57 here. Sorry, the 87. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that one short. Just pull that back a bit. Wow, yeah, I like that. Okay, so I'm going to stay there. I'm not going to touch that. But what we'll do is just listen to what happens when we pull the mic off the cone. So we're going to go to the outside of the cone now. Go to the neck pickup. Both pickups. Too much bass there for me. So if we bring this in, let's just put it there. In the room, I like that. Okay, I do like that. Let's see how that sits now with my other amp when I bring it in. What I'm going to do is engage my EQ. Now, you might be thinking, oh, Paul, there's not enough bass in that. But remember, I'm mixing for, I've taken low end out of this when I engage my EQ so that I'm mixing for when there's drums and bass there. I don't want to be taking up the energy they're taking. We're going to cover that when we go into EQs after amps. So yeah, that's where I am in here. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to save that. I like that. Actually, let me just turn off those, save it again. Right, so now I'm going to go to another view. Okay, so we're into the end of the video. Hopefully that wasn't too painful. Sorry, it went on a little bit. What I wanted to do is I want to scoot over these subjects in the following ABC videos where I go into the amps. But I needed to kind of cover it in some depth. But before we do go off, I left the last bit because I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. And I'm just going to quickly run through. Right, so here I'm in the cab sim and I'm on original. Right, so all the settings are the same as we just left them in the settings view. What I want to do now is see what that sounds like if I stick it on. This is 110. So that's a 10, but you'd never do that, right? Let's go to 212s. It's quite nice, actually. Quite like that. Let's go to 412s. That to me is just a little bit too much for recording. I want it there. That'll sit much better with drums and bass. Right, so what I'm going to do now is leave it there. Hang on a second. Let me just check. 212s. Let's go clean, add the compressor. Add that reverb. Right, quick jam. a little reverb and a little bit of T-scream on. Neck pickup. Right, rolling all the gain off the guitar. Disengage the T-scream. I'm going to stick a fuzz on. Increase the gain. Losing the reverbs and delays. Familiar. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. Hopefully that gives you a flavour. Do you know what? I've not really explored the x-higain. I was looking at doing it when I do these amp sessions. We're obviously going to dive into the amp itself in one of the sessions, one of the alphabets of to session 2. And yeah, I really like that. Hopefully it doesn't sound shit in there. I'm going to take that. Lovely. Save that. Okay. See you later. As I say, part 8 will be much shorter. Not sure how I'm going to do it. We've got 11 original original amps, so that's like Tweeds, Fender amps, Marshall amps, things like that. We'll go into those. And then we've got 9 what they call advanced amps, which are like your x-higains, things like that, MDP technologies. And then you've got bass amps. I'm going to be covering basses. Now I've set up 30 patches, as I mentioned. One for every amp. I'm going to do 5 basses though, and a whole bunch of effects. Let's get stuck in. See you in a bit.